I'll say this. I will say this. I'm a little tired. Uh, it's just, it is what it is. I just, sometimes I don't even know. There's I loved the Peanuts comic strip. I love Snoopy. Snoopy's one of my favorite cartoon characters ever. Comic book characters, I guess, cartoon comic book. And I had, as a kid, again, fond memories, we would sit on the front step of our house. I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old on a summer day on the Saturday weekend, because pops we would get the Spectator, obviously, because like you didn't get anything unless you got the Spectator back in the day. As a part-time paperboy. And the Saturday paper is when you get the comic strips in color, and the TV guide and everything else. I think it was Saturday. And Dad would sit on the front porch with us. Well, not really a porch, it was a front steps up to the front door, with me and Terry and sometimes Ryan. And Dad would read us the comic strips. It's a fond memory of mine from my youth, and my favorite was always Snoopy, Peanuts. And then I started collecting the books. You go to the bookstore and they would have the conglomeration of all the comic strips for the year, and you buy that one. And I had lots of them, and I kept on finding more as I got older in used bookstores, and I got them. When they released the anthologies of Peanuts after Charles M. Schulz passed away, and they had them combined into those big hardcover books, and they're going to release every year. I got 4 of them, and I just stopped. I don't know if they released any more after 4. I don't remember seeing them. I don't remember getting them. But I won't say I've read every single comic strip. It was 52 years of comic strips every day in the paper. I don't think I read all, but I had a lot of books, a lot of Peanuts books, and a lot of understanding of Charles M. Schulz and blah blah. But one of my favorite things to this day is remembering Peanut strips in my head. For whatever reason, it always seems to be apropos to stuff that's going on. And there was, Snoopy fancied himself a writer at some certain point, and he'd be sitting at the typewriter. It was a dark and stormy night. Deep cut, not even a deep cut. Or he would write these puns, which were the craziest and stupidest puns. But when you're a kid, you thought they're hilarious. But when you're an adult, you're going. There was one where he's typing. She was looking for her wristband or necklace, and she asked her husband. I think it started off. They named their dog Great Authority, or Good Authority, and then she asked where her necklace was, and the husband says, I think I have it on. I think I have it on good authority, and she creamed him with a waffle iron or something like that. I thought it was a dog collar, so I have it. I have it on good authority. Just this is cutesy little puns. I just remember. I also remember when Snoopy was reading War and Peace. One word a day. I don't. It's just stupid little things I remember. But there was one time that Snoopy, in the midst of writing his grand epic novel, he'd be sitting there, with his hands, and he's thinking, oh, sometimes the words come so fast, I can't write them down fast enough. So the typewriter's there. He's sitting on top of his doghouse. Sometimes the words, they're so overpowering, I just can't get them down fast enough. And as the 4 panels, and the last panel goes, sometimes ... Because here I am. So it reminded me of this video right here. That sometimes I just can't help but I have a million things I want to talk about, and sometimes maybe, and then that takes me to Gowron. for those of you who have already connected the dots to Gowron, because this is how my mind works. Maybe someday, but not today. But not today. I will say again, tangents upon tangents. Uh, I of course got to watch Next Gen as it was being released, so I got to see the first run of Next Gen, 1987, 1986, 1987, when it premiered on TV. Um, and I knew it was happening because, again, Star Trek fan, and I was. This is pre-internet, but it wasn't a good kept secret for like a year before that they're gonna reboot Star Trek or re-release new episodes of Star Trek, and I was just looking forward to it. So I got to watch it in this first run, and I tried back then. Of course, we didn't have VCRs. Well, maybe by 1987 we had a VCR. I can't remember, but excuse me. I may have recorded some of it. I don't know, but you would normally back in the 70s, definitely in the 70s and into the 80s, you would book your time for the shows you want to watch because you would see them for that hour, and then you can't see them until the reruns in the summertime or whatever else. And so you would have to book the time to watch the show. And so Next Gen was one of those shows that I'm going to watch. And of course, I never hardly missed any episode. And I remember sitting when it first premiered Encounter at Farpoint, I'm going, this is great. No, I cannot watch Encounter at Farpoint at all, by the way. There's hardly any saving graces that Encounter Farpoint. Not the worst of Next Generation, by the way. In the end, I give Encounter at Farpoint a little more credit than most other people, but I don't give it enough credit to say I'm going to sit through this again. So there are some highlights, DeForest Kelly, blah blah. But anyway, so sitting through Next Gen, there's so many points of the show where ensconced in my head is like, oh, this was such a great show. Tapestry, obviously, I mentioned that one before. Relics is in my top 5 easily. We always go back to the quintessential best of both worlds. It's like saying, what's your favorite TOS? City on the Edge of Forever. But when it came to, like, I think it started around season 3 or season 4, maybe a little bit earlier, when they started delving into the political environment of the Klingon Empire, where they're doing Worf-centric episodes. And at the time, honestly, my Chadich, that was okay. But at the time, I remember thinking, meh, every time it focused on, I loved his brother, Kern. That was fantastic, by the way. I think Tony Todd, I think his name was, the actor just passed away last year. Fantastic actor. But when Worf's brother, we didn't know he was Worf's brother when he came on to the Enterprise as the first officer exchange program, like when Wrecker went over to the Klingon ship of season before. Fantastic episodes. But normally when I knew it was going to be a Klingon-centric episode, I'm going, I'll watch it at some point. It seemed to be more soap opera-ish, more Another World or As the World Turns than anything else. But now, I've seen Next Gen again, minus season 1. There's hardly anything redeemable season 1, but from 2 on, and 2 does fluctuate. But season 2 actually has some really good episodes. Measure of a Man, top 5 favorite Star Trek episodes of all time, right there. That was in season 2. But I remember rewatching Next Gen from the beginning a few decades later, and I'm going, the Klingon episodes weren't that bad, especially the Chidich when Worf is trying to get back into the good graces, or he gets excommunicated or whatever. I didn't mind them as much as second viewing through. I didn't. I don't know why, when I remember back in the 80s watching it for the first time, I'm going, oh, another Klingon episode. I'm just, no. Because on second viewing, they weren't that bad. And I didn't mind them nearly as much. And I actually got to appreciate it, and more than I did for the first viewing. So I will say that sometimes you just have to give things some time. Sometimes you have to give things some time. And that's just more of a life statement too. Sometimes things need to percolate. Coffee reference. Sometimes you need to ruminate. I've mentioned this many times before. You just sit back and you kind of stroke your chin a little bit with deep in contemplation, some rumination, some contemplation, some whatever else, and you say, I'm going to have to take a step back for a minute, and I'm going to regroup, and I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to come back at it. Now, that said, I ostensibly, one of my beautiful words, ostensibly, I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome, the last hour video that you guys watched here. Ostensibly, I wanted to talk about that because it is rampant, I find, in almost every fact of life, where you feel you're not worthy to be at the table for whatever's at the table. I've talked to Lego fans. I will say, I don't think I mentioned this in my last video. Overall, barring a few outliers, Lego fans are a very modest bunch. They really are. They don't like to pronounce their greatness in front of everybody. They will build and they will display and they'll talk and whatever, but they don't want to be the center of attention overall. And I even know some master builders that have a tough time public speaking because they don't want to be the center of attention. They don't want the limelight. They want to build their wonderful things, and maybe people appreciate it, but they don't want to stand up in front of thousands of crowds of thousands of people, and hey, look how great I am. That is not imposter syndrome. I don't think that's imposter syndrome. To me, that's who we are. I will say again, overall, barring the fact that when we were kids, and my friend Pete would come over, or my friend Mark would come over, or whoever else, my friend Sean would come over, and we would play Lego for hours before dinner on a weekend or evenings. In my adulthood, this was a solitary endeavor. Pure and simple. This was solitary. 99.999% of my time in this Lego room is solo. So I mean, I don't mind sharing when Josh was younger and he was more interested in it because he's, found girls and stuff like that. Josh would be in here, and that was fun. 100% I loved it when Josh and I were building together. But overall, the Lego building is a solo endeavor, and I have seen successful people sharing the hobby with their spouse or significant other, and they can work in the same room for a long time, or they can build collaborative displays. That's fantastic, but that's the exception. If you go to a Lego show, the collaborations are usually big, but it's one out of, it's 1% of all the builds in the room at the display. There's 1% of them that are collaborations with more than one person working on something. And again, with the collab idea, which is fantastic, by the way, Jeff and I had the space forever, and it was the collab. But we never built it together. He built his part. He was going to do that section. I was going to do this section. It's just like the train shows, the train layouts. You each build your own section. You show up with it. So it's very rare to sit in a room with somebody and build Lego or whatever. I've sat with people in here, but we mostly just talk. We didn't really do a lot of building because you're running over there, grab parts, go over here, the space needed, blah, blah, blah. Building Lego sometimes takes up a lot of space. I will say that. This table is 7.5 feet long by 2.5 feet deep, and it's mostly full all the time because I'm doing so much with it, and I'm bringing all the bins and what have you. And so it is a solo endeavor overall. Again, not 100% solo endeavor, but it's a huge, astronomically high, close to 100% of a solo amount of time without other people in the room building with you. And that's the way it is. And I think that just that point alone attracts a specific type. I'm not saying introvert, but it does attract a certain type of individual that can stay focused on, again, not all the time, but a lot of time when you're actually Lego fans can stay focused. Like I've been here down here for an hour and a half now, sorting. Paint this video before I go to bed, and all of a sudden an hour and a half has gone by. Where'd that hour and a half go? Right? Whereas other people would rather pull out their eyebrows than sit here for an hour and a half and sorting around pieces. And I fully understand that. I sit here for an hour and a half and I have the time of my life, and I have stray thoughts about Garon and you shall not pass, whatever else is going through my head time. But I'm sorting, listening to wonderful music on my radio, and I enjoy it. It is something. I liken it in this regard. When I was younger, I used to cut a lot of grass. I bought my first car off of money I made cutting grass. I did a lot of people's lawns back in the day in my early teens. And some lawns were huge, and there was no riding lawnmowers back then. There was none of this luxury, I tell you, luxury. We lived in a hole. Oh, I dream of a hole. I'm not going to quote Monty Python. Back in the 80s, you had a push mower, and not even a powered track push mower. And so you just push a mower around in the grass for an hour and a half. And I did that every weekend, a lot of evenings cutting grass. And then when you're doing it, your mind wanders and thinks about other things. And that's what happens here. Like I'm busy sorting. So my brain has dedicated a portion of its efforts to making sure I grab the right pieces and put it in the right spot. But overall, I start thinking about other stuff. I started thinking about imposter syndrome and stuff like that. And then I started pontificating in my head about what that's all about, or whatever, solving the world's problems while sorting Lego, and just enjoying my time, and then an hour and a half goes by. So, by getting back to the actual topic that I started yesterday, but hopefully focusing on a little bit more instead of going off in a whole bunch of tangents. 17 minutes so far. Imposter syndrome is you not feeling you're worthy enough to be at the table. That you are not good enough, that you're not living up to somebody else's measures or expectations. And yet you feel, and I think this is separating your emotional understanding from your intellectual understanding, where people come up to you and say, oh my goodness, that's absolutely fantastic, and you think it's not good enough. I've mentioned this numerous times, and I'm not sure if it's related to imposter syndrome, but I never, for 7 years, thought that tower was done. I didn't think it was done. It wasn't worthy enough. It wasn't good enough, but I had to show something. And as I said, when I put on the cake, I didn't bring my water down. When I put the cake topper on top after 7 years or whatever it was, then I said, oh, it's done. And now I'm happy with it. That's not necessarily imposter syndrome, because I knew I was going to get sometime, at some point, I was going to get there. But it is a feeling of insufficiency that some people have, many people have, that they're insufficient to be worthy of appreciation from others. And that's a tough one, because again, I think overall we do attract in this hobby people who feel like they're unworthy enough, because they always seem to be comparing themselves to others. And I've seen it many times. I do myself many times, that I keep on thinking, I'm not like Wayne and Garth, I'm not worthy, not like that. But the idea that I go to a show, I look around, I say, again, talking about everybody else's mocks and how wonderfully creative and fantastically built they are, and I show up with this thing that could have been built in the 80s with the building style, bricks on top of bricks. It's just big. So I start deprecating my efforts thus far, and I keep on saying to myself, I'm just joking about it, because I do like the layout. I really have liked the layout myself. I just try to find the balance between what I know to be true, which is my layout. A lot of people tell me it's awesome, And I agree that it has some elements of awesomeness to it. Had I been a better builder, quote unquote, it would have been so much better to, because again, I see the Hogwarts castle that's 13 by 13, Blacktron Intelligence Agency, which is built before I built my layout, and how wonderful that is, right? But I think on the flip side, I don't get down on myself thinking, oh, it's a piece of crap. It fulfills a function for me as it is. It's fantastic. For what it's an homage to is completely appropriate. It's an homage to 1982, 1982 Lego building, including the classic space sets. Building style, and building structure is just like you would read the instructions from the 70s and 80s. So nothing fancy, not a lot of mod bricks, not a lot of mod plates, just a lot of basic brick, again, 70s and early 80s. So that was the niche of the time, writ large, writ grande. so that's, I ran with it. I'm happy I did. And so I vacillate between, I should put a lot more effort into it to, I don't, quote unquote, modernize it, or just keep going with it and just add the details that I've always wanted to add, because it takes the setup time and stuff like that. So that parenthetically relates to imposter syndrome, where I feel that my builds are worthy enough to be at a show, or I wouldn't bring them to a show. But my builds are not worthy enough to be considered NPU, or hobby changing influence. I'll say that. Again, I don't like dropping this guy's name, but Wayne Gretzky changed the game of hockey. He was so good that he changed the game of hockey, because he was that powerful of an influence on the actual sport. I would not want to be an influencer. I am not an influencer, even though I got a billion videos of hours of video on the YouTubes now. I do not want to be an influencer. I never wanted that. I wanted to be just hang around friends and talk and shoot the shit and shoot the breeze. And it's like going for a coffee with your... Oh, I'm gonna put the, I have to plug this thing in because the battery's dying. I forgot to plug that in. I deleted videos, so there's like time on this thing. I want to be comfortable, and overall I am. And so the imposter syndrome feeling of I'm not worthy enough is just like background noise overall. It sometimes percolates, again, talking about coffee, sometimes it percolates to the surface, but overall, but I also don't want to walk around and be too big for my britches, as they used to say. I don't want to think that I'm this utterly fantastic builder and trumping everybody else's stuff, because again, I love looking at all the different build techniques and appreciating how that MOC came to be and the efforts that people put into that. And you walk around any show and you say, that's a style there, that's a completely different style over there, and that's a completely different style over there, and yet you love all of them. And so I am not part of genres. I do not partake in genres that I don't care about, like Bionicle. I don't build Bionicle. I will probably never build Bionicle. But I love the MOCs that come out of Bionicle. I mentioned that before. I'm not into Friends. I saw some really nice Friends builds MOCs at shows. Fantastic. Heart Lake City, like they do a complete. I just saw one of our Lego influencers, shall we say, build all the Fabuland sets. thought that was awesome. Because again, Fabuland is this little niche. I have a few. Never bought them off the store shelves, but Fabuland is like that little niche of time in the Lego collection. The Lego the Lego company releasing sets, and I appreciate it even back then. Um, so again, I think how I basically overcome, let's just put it as simple as possible. The way I overcome imposter syndrome is by just appreciation of what other people do for what they are doing. Again, if they're walking, I'm going to keep on bringing it back to how I think about life. If they're walking in a direction that they want to walk in, they're building in a style they want to build in, they're building whatever they're building, I'm going to appreciate what they're giving to me. I used to say this a lot when I was younger and having a tough time with life, universe, and everything. Nobody told me this that I remember, but I got to the point where I go, not bipolar, but depression kind of roller coaster ride, and not feeling appreciated when I was younger, in my teens and early 20s, not feeling appreciated, which was not based in reality at all, by the way, as I know now. It's just the overwhelming feelings of growing up and whatever else, and not feeling that you're worthy enough. Again, imposter syndrome. I came to the conclusion that I was looking for people to interface with me the way I wanted them to. I wanted them to change who they fundamentally are, how they work with me, interface with me, work with me, talk to me. I wanted them to come to me in a way I wanted them to come to me, instead of accepting them for who they are and how they want to present themselves to me. I learned that back. Let's talk about presenting yourselves in this day and age. It's a little different now, but it means exactly the same thing. I should not put my demands of what I want on other people. I shouldn't put that demand on other people. I should accept what other people are giving to me as they can give it to me, as they are able to give it to me, as they want, as they have the want to give it to me. I go to Lego shows. Some people don't talk. They kind of, sit in a chair and they watch the world go by and whatever, and that's who they are. And some people are very, shall we say, flamboyant, and they're talking to everybody and blah, blah, blah. That's who they are. And so you can't expect people to cater to your needs, your wants, your desires, what's going to edify you, what you want them to do to edify you. I came to the idea in my late teens and early 20s. Let people love you the way they want to love you. In reason, obviously. Accept their love that they're demonstrating to you the way they can. We can talk about love languages and all the other stuff, but that's a whole different topic. But and if you yourself are not the parenthetical or the corollary, whatever, the stupid word, to this point, is that if you're not getting to love, the love coming to you that you need, then you're going to have to find it elsewhere. You can't demand it from a person who's not unable or unwilling to give it to you in that way. And this is where it came down for me, as my parents, who are fundamentally the best people that I ever knew. But when you're an angsty teenager going in your 1920s, and you're having and like, my parents aren't doing what loving me the way I want them to love me. They love me for how they could. They showed me their love in so many ways. Not necessarily what I was looking for at the time, what I wanted at the time, but over and above that, the love, overwhelming love from my parents to me was almost palpable. Almost palpable when I was growing up. My entire life, the love from my parents towards me, to me, was demonstrably there, like all the time. There was not one time deep down that I knew my parents. There's not one time when I thought my parents didn't love me or demonstrating their love for me. Not one time. ever. When I look back at it, now again, you're 19 years old and you're having an argument with your parents. Oh, you don't love me, and you storm out the door. That's parenthetical to this discussion. But looking back on it, there was not one time in my entire lifespan that my parents did not demonstrate that they loved me and they were giving me the love that they could give me in the way they could give it to me. And I have to accept that the way they're giving it to me, because that's how they're giving it to me. I can't demand from them to give me the whatever love the way I want them to give it to me. I can't do that. Now, that's when you have parents who are giving you good appreciation and foundation of love. So if you're not getting a good foundation as they're giving it to you, and they're giving you whatever else, I don't know, gaslighting you or whatever else, then don't go looking to them. But I did not have that. I did not have parents who gaslit me ever. I don't have parents who demeaned me or made me feel less than who I am. I was very, very blessed with the parents I had, and still have my dad. And so my in the end, I keep on wanting to talk about imposter syndrome. In the end, I didn't have enough of an issue with imposter syndrome. I know I have it. I think a lot of people have it. I'm not worthy enough to be here. But I also believe that you can take, I mentioned this the other day too. You have to be able to step outside of your ego, your view, kind of take a meta view over there and look at what you're doing for the community. Look at how the community is responding to you, the way they want to respond to you. I've noticed that, Pop says it's always easier to catch, flies with honey than whatever. But you step back and you say, I am worthy to be here. I don't have to be, look, I'm here, guys, respect me. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I've been saying you are worthy. When I go to Lego shows, everybody there is worthy to be there. Every person that's there, every person that I've met so far at every Lego show that I've ever been to is worthy to be there at that time, in that space. Things come and go, things wane. I'll be the first to say that. I haven't scuba dived in a couple years. Well, I did one dive last year, but it hasn't been like we did 60 dives one year. Things ebbs. I talked about this, the flotsams, the ebbs and flows of life. I'm a different person today than I was yesterday. I'm definitely a different person today than I was a year ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. The ebbs and flows of your life will take you in different directions, but your life should take you. You should be able to consciously guide it in a fashion to take you to places you want to be and be around the people you want to be around. The people, and then the people who are demonstrating their love to you the way they can and the way you want it. Those people are out there. Those people, when you get that I feel comfort and love and appreciated by this person because they're demonstrating. Again, not going to talk about love languages, but kind of related to love languages. They're coming at me. They're coming to me. They're exuding. They're projecting this love towards me that I really appreciate. What more could you ask for? Like literally, what more do you want? And so accept that when it happens. Feel worthy enough to say, I am worth that from this person, and moreover, I don't know exactly how to phrase it because it happens all the time to my life. I have friends that, Dave, I want to come over and help you, and I say no. Because I'm a solo endeavor kind of guy. I should stop every once in a while and say, yes, I will accept your help for whatever I'm doing. I am getting to that age now where I should be doing that. But these people are demonstrating their love towards you in the way that they can, how they can, and you have to be magnanimous. I think I got that right. Magnanimous enough to accept it in the way they're giving it to you instead of tutting it. Because like even if you in your head feel like you're not worthy of accepting that, you denying that hurts them. They want to do this for you. They want to be there in this way for you. They want to be that giving. When they come up with a plan, when they come up with what they're trying to give you, and you say no, 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 I'm not worthy enough to accept that. That's tough on them too. So you have to say. So you're basically hurting them, but by denying them the ability to give you what they want to give you, in a way of friendship or appreciation or whatever it is. Um, and so you have to be very wary. And I am the worst offender of this, by the way. So I'm preaching from the Mount Sinai. I am coming down with the Ten Commandments. No, because I have done this so many times in my life where I feel like I'm not worthy enough to accept whatever somebody's given me in the way of friendship or appreciation or help or aid, whatever. Because I'm solo guy, first of all. I'm not worthy enough to accept anything from you. I don't want you to go out of your way. I don't want you to put yourself out. I don't want you to put your energy. I have to take care of this myself, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on, the reasons why you're not accepting their appreciation, their love for you, their love language for you. And you have to get past that. That's a tough one too, by the way. I will be straight up. That's a tough one. And I've experienced this myself many, many times, that I have to accept the love that people give me, because they want to. They think I'm worthy enough of their love, the way they want to show it to me. I also, again, with this, you can't demand that they give it to you, and you can't. So you have to accept. Again, there's nuance here, blah blah blah. If you're not in a state of mind where you can accept it, they should understand that. They have to understand that, and then you have to go, lock yourself in a closet or work yourself out to the point where you can accept it. But there are times when you can't accept it, and I fully understand that. I fully understand that there are certain times in your life that, your struggles, and you have to. I so many tangents. I was talking to somebody the other day about interventions when this was big in the 90s, to confront people, to look at their ways of conducting their lives, their affairs that are very much detrimental to their future. I have always, I'm not a psychologist, I mentioned that before, but I have always been of the opinion that change, good change, healthy change, for the better of a person in their life, in their future life, has never, in my experience, been from without. If somebody is doing something detrimental or malicious or harmful to themselves, spiraling down, you can aid them as you can, but for them to have a change, to bring themselves up out of the hole that they've dug themselves in, or the hole that they're in, I've never seen a time when somebody comes along and says something intelligent or psychological or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna think about it that way, and then all of a sudden they're out of the hole. The change comes from within. Interventions, I don't think they even do them anymore, from what I was told the other day, because it can work, but it most likely won't, because the person who is going through whatever they're going through has to want it. So an intervention doesn't force, you can't force somebody to want something. I've been, again, to go off on tangent, I've been also blessed my entire life that nobody's ever pressured me into drinking, like ever. I've never, I've been, in my 20s, I'd be in bars all the time with my friends. I mentioned that before, as a designated driver, loving it. Not one time did somebody come up with a drink in their heads. Hey, Dave, drink this. And I say, no, what are you, a chicken? Nobody's ever done that to me that I remember. I know that I had a few friends or acquaintances that loved to drink, but they never gave me a side eye for me not drinking. And I was perfectly reasonably content not drinking, because nobody was making me feel uncomfortable by me not drinking. And so I've been, again, singularly blessed on that front. And so I never had to, I was never forced or pushed into doing something I didn't want to do. That's another huge blessing in my life. I literally was never forced into doing anything I didn't want to do. And I know from who I am, if somebody tried to force me to do something I didn't want to do, it would be a literal disaster. So just take the example of me and change the situation around my life. I'm a heavy drinker, and I'm getting into some not heavy duty law breaking, but I've got a record now. I've been in front of the judge a few times because of disorderly conduct, whatever. And the family runs an intervention. I know my ego. I know my ego right now. If somebody comes to me, and I've mentioned this on this channel, on these videos, if somebody comes to me and tells me I have to change something about myself when I'm not there yet, go screw yourself. And I say this on the good side, where since I know I'm not doing anything harmful or whatever, and somebody comes up to me and saying, Dave, well, maybe you should. No, 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 no. You do. Nobody gets to tell me that I have to stop doing something I like to do because they don't like me doing it. Go screw yourself. I will get my backup immediately, like the cat. If somebody comes up to me and say, Dave, you can't play with Lego anymore. You should. What's a 58-year-old doing playing with Lego? Go screw yourself. Absolutely. I am at that point now, by the way. You kids get on my grass. And so I know that's when I'm on the, like, I believe I'm walking the good straight and narrow. If I'm a malcontent that's in front of the judge every 6 months for disorderly conduct, and then my family runs an intervention, that ain't gonna work for me. I would never, literally ever work for me. It wouldn't. Because I know well, I'll actually use the word. I know my ego. I know who I am. Every step that I've had when I felt myself spiraling out of control, not out of control, but spiraling down into depression, it was me that got me out of it. Now, to be said, there are people out there that require medications. Get it. Here's me going completely contrary. Listen to the docs, listen to whoever. Like if you want to fix yourself, because that's a medical issue now, then listen to the docs and get the stuff you need, and then take it as prescripted. But for me, I know when I'm sick, take the medication. It's like I don't hesitate at all anymore. Anytime I find something, I feel there's something wrong with my body, I feel a little discombobulated or whatever, I'm seeing a doctor. I'm going to go see a doctor because I don't know what's going on. I want to live a long, healthy life, and I'm not going to play with things. My AFib taught me that, and so I do not mind running to the doctor when I have a new, that not just a little tiny pain somewhere. That's irrelevant, but I have something that I feel like is debilitating, and I've never experienced it before, and I don't know if it's what's up. I go see a doc. I did that the other day when I was like throwing up for no reason whatsoever. So, but anyway, all this to be said, I think you were saying,